here is Sebastian Gorka with Matt's favorite.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Did you know this, Matt?
I didn't even recognize him.
This is
From that
somebody.
angle.
This is Matt. Do you want to explain who this gentleman is? This very fit-looking guy in a blue shirt.
This is a man who has achieved a modicum of success. His name is Boris Ephystein. Boris Must-Run Ephystein of Sinclair Media. The guy who does short packages saying, Mr. Trump is doing his best and people aren't giving him enough credit.
Donald Trump does moves that are provoke. However, proof will pudding. And that is Iran. Thank you. And about 15 people, 45 people watch them a video on YouTube. And as I always say, look, if you're What Do You Mean, as an example, which is a very talented Australian YouTuber that we plug. If you are a grassroots YouTuber, you have no networks, you're reaching out, you're building, you have 10 people watching your video, awesome. You have 50 people watching your video, very good. You have 100 people, it's an accomplishment. But if you are part of a national cable network and you got like 45 people watching your videos, sad. Very bad performance. Here's Sebastian Gorka and Boris Ephystein.
But what about the latest thing? Now we have this whole thing for the last 10 hours about they don't have toothbrushes. This is, we have somebody on Fox, and we'll talk about him in a second, saying this is equivalent to transgressing the Geneva Conventions. Buddy, if you don't want children not to have toothbrushes, how about the children that are dying in the desert, 3 of them with their mother, because there is no wall and because a coyote promised to smuggle them to America? How about not having anybody make that trip, not be raped, not be abused, or die in the desert? The priorities are just upside down, aren't they, Boris?
Aren't they, Boris? I'm a big believer in the Geneva Conventions. I learned it from Dad. Obviously it goes without saying, stop terrorizing Central America
The wall
through
would not
backing
stop
right-wing
this.
governments. Yeah.
The idea that
This
the
isn't
wall is
stopping
what's
it.
causing this is just, or the lack of a wall.
You're kidnapping children and they're dying in custody and it's not stopping it.
And people are saying, don't go to the border, don't go to the designated points because they will put you in cages and shit. And that's why they're going
And that's
to
a
the
new
desert.
business
Yeah.
opportunity for the coyote.
And a little bit behind, I don't know if it's because he's not a politically commissioned officer anymore, but Gorka's behind the talking points because Trump is saying they need to change asylum laws and things like that. So it's not really about the wall, Gorka.
It's indeed.
It's always about the wall.
Well, let's actually play that. This is Donald Trump saying that the border conditions are worse under Obama, and actually tipping his hand here, like Matt said, about what it's really about.
Are you personally concerned about the conditions at these border facilities?
Yes, I
There are
am.
some
I'm very
reports-
concerned. And they're much better than they were under President Obama, by far. And we're trying to get the Democrats to agree to really give us some humanitarian aid, humanitarian money. And that is a very fair question. And I appreciate that question. But I'm very concerned. It's in much better shape than it ever was. A lot of these young children come from places that you don't even want to know about, the way they've lived, the way they've been, the poverty that they grew up in. But with
Sounds like they're refugees that we should allow into the country.
I was going to say, I totally share your empathy, Donald. And
I think I do want to
I
hear
think
about
these
it,
are
though.
people we can actually help very easily.
the poverty that they grew up in. But with that, if we can get this bill signed, we'll be able to do it. We have, the Democrats don't want to sign anything. And now I think they're going to probably sign this, from what I understand. I call it humanitarian aid.
Yes, the border was terrible under Obama. Of course, it's worse under Trump. We could say this by the evident fact that multiple children have died under Trump. This is this is what he's got in 2020. This is the play. He's going to do fake economics, populism for sure, particularly if it's somebody he can do that against. But the bottom line is that he ran on a combination of totally dishonest, totally non-systemic, but at times totally correct critique of things like trade agreements and oligarchy and xenophobia and racism. And he's got xenophobia and racism because his economic agenda is the Republican economic agenda, which is oligarchic. And I know we repeat this every single time, and I've said this so many times. I said this going back to playing clips of Paul Ryan in the summer of 2016, where Paul Ryan literally was like, don't worry about what that dude says. When this idiot is president, we're going to feed through deregulation and tax cuts. And we're going to have more pollution in the water, and we're going to give more money to rich people, and we're going to destroy people's health care. We're going to make this country poorer, sicker, and dumber. That's our core brand proposition. This guy has a hypnotic relationship with a large part of the Republican base because this is the reason that they're Republicans. And therefore, refugees, children, people fleeing situations whose origins are in things like the drug war, are in things like supporting coups and paramilitaries in these countries, are in things like sweatshops and imbalanced trade agreements. That's the origin and context of why somebody is fleeing conditions that are so bad that they would still go to deal with this regime in the United States. And those people need to be terrorized because that is the path to salvaging 2020. That's it. And anybody else who says otherwise, tries to make it more complicated, is dumb, full of shit, or that's basically
Delusional.
Or delusional. That's one of my favorite words, as we all know. Delusional.